We continue learning Kitzur Yomi. We're back at Hilchos Brachos Simin Lamed Taz. We just learned an incredible halacha about eating foods before a meal and the requirement to make a bracha achroina. And if you forgot to even make that bracha achroina during the Suda, a very unknown but important halacha. Says the Kitzur in Sif Beis, but what happens? There are certain foods that you eat are yes connected to the Suda. If you want to drink wine before washing your hands, if you why do you drink wine? It comes to open up your insides. And it allows you to eat more. So when we spoke about having a piece of kugel, when we spoke about having a bissel salad before your meal, that has no shaykhs to the suda. You're stam eating. So then if you forget your bracha achrayna, you got to make it even during the meal. But here, when you're having a glass of wine before a meal, why are you doing? You're doing it to open yourself up. And therefore, therefore it's yes, pater, some say. Even if you will drink wine during the meal, still the wine before the meal is not pater. So we have a machlaikas. How do we view it? Do we view wine as opening up your insides or not? And the big nafkamina is going to be, do you need a bracha rishayna if you drink it before the meal? And therefore, don't do it. Unless you're drinking also after you bench, then no big deal. Because then you drink again after you bench. Then you make it al-gef. You have to gam Netilas Yadaim, which, by the way, that is an important detail. Let's go back to our kugel case. You had a bite of kugel, you had a bite of salad, you made a hadama. Then you washed, you had a whole suda. And then you've benched an oivei. So now you have to make a bracha achrayna, we said, even though you already benched. But now if you're still going to have another nacha bite of kugel, then that's going to be fine as well. Then you'll still be able to make the bracha achrayna. What if you want to have Shnaps? Be careful, not to drink it, because if not, you have to make a bracha achrayna. Bracha achrayna. Get some bracha, but you're messing yourself up. So what about mizaynais foods? Kigain, egg and kibin, honey cake, egg and kichen, egg kechol, chadaimis of gimel, shebracha achrayna shamim al mechia. We know that mizaynais is different because mizaynais alamich and berachas hamazon are first cousins. Alamich is a short in berachas hamazon, and therefore will yes be pater by berachas hamazon. Berachas hamazon pater as berachas alamicha ubelvad shaliyasik harbi bin achila zul until zidayim. You can have a long break, meaning, if, let's say, you made kiddush and you had mizaynais, and then an hour later you have your suda, then you're messed up. Then you should make then you should yes make an al-michya. Again, simin lamed tes was a short simin, but definitely halachas that people do not know necessarily and require us to be vigilant regarding. Siv Mem, we go into halachas of Netilas Yadaim, Siv Aleph through Dalid. We have a nice hakdam over here that teaches us different types of Netilas Yadaim, as we're going to see. Siv Aleph, so once the bread. Shavarchan lavamaitzis, arlita Yadaim Kli. You got to wash your hands first. If the bread is at least large as a beya, so if you're listening carefully, you're going to realize that if you go and you wash for a suda and you don't have a beya's worth of bread, you're messed up because you washed and you make it al Netilas Yadaim and you don't have a beya's worth of bread, then you have a problem. Okay, now Lamaisa, in note 8, it points out, according to Ramesha, if you can have a kazayis of bread, lamaisa, you make an al Netilas Yadaim. However, we should really be careful. Make sure you eat the requisite amount so as not to walk into issues. An incredibly important halacha. You need to use a kli. It does not work to go to the faucet and do the on-off shtickle. It doesn't work. Netilas Yadayim for bread is a din that needs a kli. We can't overstate this enough. So kili shalem must be a full kli. Belisham nekev, or something mefulish gam lamali yashavem. Belisham charitz ay belita, or any protrusion. Now, note 10 points out that if on one side a cutout opening is lower than the vessel of the pouring, then the top is not called holding water, and therefore, if you pour from the top, it's not called pouring from the kli. Okay, so over here, if you were to pour out of the top over here, this top area is not called part of the kli because that area can't hold water because it comes out the other side, and therefore, what happens? It continues the Kitzur of Isaac and Kanim, those jogs sheishlam kin marzev, as we just saw a spout. Kul bailet begoiva svasa kli sheyotzi menu derech sham ein noilim menu liyadaim derech sham ki sham ein lo din kli. There's no din kli out of the spout. Ki v'sheina machzik sham mashkin, because at the size of the spout it doesn't hold liquid. Elas richel litel derech sefes akli. You have to pour on the other side over the lip of the vessel. A place that it holds liquid. So let's look here at note 11 very carefully. Let's just read it. The spout protrudes, diagram B. Over here, the spout protrudes higher than the kli. So if you pour out of the area of the spout higher than the kli, then what's going to happen? That's not called holding water at that area, and therefore it's not going to be called coming from the vessel. So says the Kitzur, you have to pour from the lower area. So again, let's just, there's two different types of kelim over here. And this does happen. So let's just take a quick moment. Let's go back again. Note 10. Note 10, diagram A. If you're looking at your computer or your phone or your Kitzur, this is where the spout is lower. So it cannot hold water on the other side because the spout is lower. And therefore, if you pour it out of the top, you're going to mess up, because that area is not called holding water. You got to pour out from the spout. Whereas when the spout is higher, if you pour out from this spout, you're messed up because they can't hold water. You have to pour it out from the lower side. So to make this in English, wherever you're pouring from your kli, it has to be in an area that at that level that's pouring out of the kli, it could hold water. Continues the Kitzur. Sif Gimel. Klal she'ini yachal amboid, a vessel like a kli, she'ini yachal amboid, elam kein smicha, unless it is supported. It was made this way, l'sham shal ayidei smicha, to use it this way. Yesh lo din kli. Avlo Parnasah l'sham shal kach wasn't made to use this way. Kiyon kitzur kli, the cover of a vessel that it can only use liquid. You flip it upside down. Ain't many should not use it. So here we're starting to learn that not every single thing that you certainly could hold water is a din of a kli. If it was made that way, it would be different. But if you're just taking, a cover and you're flipping it over, that would be a problem. You say, in the Shulchan Aruch. Shir Amayim Sif Dalit, how much water kasha l'sharabim simsum? It's hard to give an exact number. So I'll call Yad Mayim Bishef, a lot of water, the number of Chista. I wash my hands full with water, and Hashem gives me a lot of prosperity. This, of course, where it comes from. That Parnasah, Shefa, it's a straight up Gemara, it's a Kitzur, it's a Mishnah Brura, that you wash your hands with a lot of water, then it brings one to have Parnasah. No 15 points out for the Mishnah Brura and Kuftin Gimel, of course. If one has Averas, it always can prevent. But everyone's looking for different schoolites. This one is quite sourced. Wash your right hand first. Until the wrist. I cannot say, now that we're learning this, everyone should wash when they watch. When they wash, often this little area over here does not get water. You got to go till your wrist. There should be no area without water, and therefore, you should separate your fingers a little bit. Lift them up a little bit. Go in the entire fingers, top and all around. In one unbroken stream. One should not wash it on the Mikli Shapir Tsar with a narrow opening. Where does that come out all at once? It's good to do 2 times on every hand. Now, note 17 does point out, very important from the Mishnah Brura, that if you did 2 consecutive acts of pouring, as long as there's no interruption, it will work. However, it's not so great. So it is important to note let's say a water bottle, the squirty water bottles. People say you can't use them. It's not true. First of all, if you take off the cover, therefore you could pour straight, that's going to be fine, number one. Number two is if you squirt it, now we're seeing over here, it might not be lechatchila, but it's going to work. Finally, the Kitzur concluded with today that you should pour it 2 times. However, he quotes Mishabur and Kufsan Machbeis that as long as it's Raviyah, all at once you're going to be okay. This is actually an important idea that there are many that hold that as long as you pour a lot of water, it's fine with once. And I'll just mention, the best is you got to make sure your whole hand's covered with water. So use a lot of water, your whole hand. 2 is better, some do even 3, etc. Pick it up from here, B'siyata Dishmaya.